So we're gonna go to Micro Center today for shopping reasons, not sponsored content, but it might be time to actually rebuild a home system. Because yesterday I was in my room cleaning it and my computer's now not wanting to launch programs and I'm getting blue screens. So I might have finally degraded the 14900K. A golden sample that was hitting 6 gigs with very little voltage.
Dang, you were gonna use that for the RIP GN rig too.
So I think the 14900K in that system might have finally died.
So it ripped itself.
It did, and don't forget, I had manual voltage set on that the whole time. It was never allowed to go to the kill itself settings. Today's video is brought to you by our brand new GPU Apocalypse 2.0 shirt, kind of immortalizing all of the stuff you love about today's GPUs. Our GPU Apocalypse 1.0 shirt was actually one of our most famous and popular shirts, and now it's re-immortalized with GPU 2.0. But let's face it, the Apocalypse never went anywhere, it just evolved. Just like this shirt. Go buy it now. So one of the reasons why I'm running down to Micro Center is I just want to shop. I want to see, usually I go down there already knowing what I want for a project we're doing here, but if this is gonna be for my build, it's gonna be water cooled. I haven't decided yet if I'm gonna use the 5090 Astral in it, or if I'm gonna just reuse my 4090 that's in there now. I'm gonna use 9950X 3D, I believe. I really think I'm gonna use that. But I wanna do water cooling and yeah, so I just need stuff because I kind of want to keep Skunkworks together to leave on display like some of the other systems that we have. So I don't know. I don't know what I'm going to do right now. I was not expecting to do a system build this fast, but yesterday I was like, yeah, maybe I'll play some games and maybe I'll do a live stream or something. And then my system was like, oh no. It learned from the degraded CPU we already did a video about. So apparently it decided, can I be broken too? Like I said, this is kind of a necessity now. Normally when I do a personal build, I just take all the time in the world because I have a system that's working in the meantime. And although my computer is working still, I can downclock it and get some more time out of it. I haven't decided what I want to use yet for a case. That's the number one thing, because I'm a water cooling slut. That's the only way to put it. So I will be water cooling it, but I don't want to waste, I don't want to buy more stuff if I already have things. So for instance, I've got this Optimus block right here, same block that I used in my friend Chris's build. I love the just understated, clean, black Cerakote that's on there. But I also found this special edition EK block I forgot that I had. Let's talk about EK real quick. I have no problem reusing EK product that I already have, to be honest. It's not like supporting the company that wasn't paying its employees. To be honest, it's actually gone kind of quiet. I have no idea what's going on over at EK anymore, but we can still honor the employees that got screwed by EK by at least showcasing the work and the stuff that they worked on. Let's face it, the designers and engineers and all of them that were very vocal about them not getting paid either, we can still support their designs. But anyway, this is gonna be a 9950X 3D build. And so I had this block sitting around for a long time actually. It's pretty neat looking. So it's obviously an RGB block. It's got a side entry there. The one thing I don't like about this block is all I see is Slimer's face, like from Ghostbusters. That's all I see with this block. Just very happy Slimer. Ah! I also don't know what GPU I'm gonna go with because I can't use the GPU that's in Skunkworks now if I plan on leaving it on display somewhere. That's a 4090. I don't care about a 5090 versus 4090, and I won't notice the difference with the fact that I play at 4K ultra wide. So it's 4K wide, 1600p tall, not 1440p or 3440 by 1440. It's 3860 or whatever 4K wide is by 1600. So it's in between like a 4K panel and a 1440p ultra wide. It's a weird resolution. But the 4090 handles that with no problem whatsoever. But I do have this. This is the FL360, which kind of sucks because I want to go 420 rads, which means the 360 would be a little small if I go with a case that uses all 420 or 140 millimeter fans. But I do have this, which is nice. It's the same one that I used in my friend Brian's build and that I learned how to drill and tap acrylic so I could put fittings where I wanted on it, and I would probably do that with this as well. If I use a 5090, it'll probably be a Delta Mate, but I've been deciding, like, do I maybe want to just go air-cooled? Leave this for more of the RIP GN stuff? Go air-cooled? If so, then I could use my Founders, which we use for testing, or I do have this Gigabyte Aorus Extreme, which is a pretty massive card, to be honest. But it has like a little screen on the side. It's got the big fan that goes back here. And I've done that before. When the 3090 first came out, I used the 3090 Founders in my Black Ice build. Remember that? So I had it vertical mounted and plumbed loop around it. That was fun. But it just felt a little weird to me being a water cooling enthusiast, not using water cooling everywhere. I'm debating using these Fantex D30 fans. I like the idea of 30 mil fans because they give me extra static pressure because they're 30 mil thick instead of 25. That's where I am right now. But in the meantime, I need to go to Micro Center because I'm going to buy a CPU. I can't use the only 9950X3D that I have because we need one obviously for testing and stuff. I need to look for cases, need to see what rads they have. I need to buy some coolant. I have plenty of tubing. I'm gonna go with the frosted tubing from Corsair, the PMMA, which is like the frosted. I kind of wanted to do a white build with like a frosted look, like not just a frosted tube, but like an ice blue in there. But now we need to do a whiteout build to make that the way I want, and I don't have white with all this stuff. So, yeah. And with the way prices of things are right now, I really don't want to spend money for the sake of spending money. So let's go see what they got. Okay, so we didn't go to Micro Center because time issues. And I just decided I'm gonna use the 925 again. My personal builds have always utilized weird or rare cases. And the 925 was what I called black ice. Remember I had the sensor panel down here. You can't buy the 925 anymore. It's like long gone. And the 928 I still have, but it's the amount of people who've messaged me asking me, hey, can I buy your 925? Can I buy your 925? It's like, no, you can't. And so it's just been sitting out there collecting dirt, quite literally. I've cleaned a lot of it off, but it still needs a deep cleaning right now. And I think it's gonna go well. Honestly, I do like this case and the uniqueness of it. So this is the space that I have to work with. So I just put in the front rad with the fans. I'm gonna actually give the Corsair Link a try for the first time. I've never actually tried these fans with any of my own builds. You can see I've got the rad up there. So I can see the amount of space I need now to be able to fit a reservoir here. Obviously, because the way the fittings are on this block pointing straight back, that's gonna complicate things a little bit. This just may not work, and that's frustrating me. Oh my gosh, this case got small real quick. If I don't use this chassis, I'll probably end up going with like, honestly, like the BeQuiet Light Base 600 or something like that. Because it's still smaller, it's a dual chamber, it'll fit everything that I want in it. But this is starting to become really annoying really quick. And now I'm just like, fuck it, I don't even want a computer at home anymore. Okay, so it's actually a couple days later. I really wanted to use the 925. I don't think, it's just not gonna happen. There's just not enough room. This case really starts to feel crammed once you start trying to put stuff like this in there. I'm giving up on this case. So this is actually the Light Base 900 FX, and it's a little bigger than the 600, but still way smaller than the Skunkworks build. But I ended up choosing the 900 right now to mess around with instead of the 600, because the 600 is actually smaller than the 925 overall. So although I could fit like the reservoir that I want to use in there, I had no room to really plumb anything. So what I'm gonna do right now is I'm gonna just start plumbing things up, get parts in here, start trying to figure out my loop, and I'll just kind of come back and share with you guys anything I might come across along the way. Oh, also too, one other thing I wanted to mention, you'll notice I took the light wings out because I am probably going to use, I really think I'm gonna go ahead and use the QX120 Link fans from Corsair, mostly because the aesthetic. Like, they match the aesthetic of the outside of this case. It's really a catch-22. Like, to use Link means I have to use IQ. And IQ, for the most part, like anytime I've used it, has been kind of all right, but I know the general like consensus on IQ is that it's kind of like a hot mess. And I might just be inheriting a hot mess. So I got the motherboard in, the CPU in, the block is on the CPU, the GPU is in, the anti-sag bracket underneath. As you can see right there, is definitely doing its job because this GPU is extremely heavy with the Delta Mate block on there, but it's not going anywhere. Yeah, and I have all this room now for reservoir. Now we can do radiator and fans on the bottom, radiator and fans on the top. Plenty of room for it to hang down and not be in the way of things. I may or may not even put a fan there. I don't know, it could be neat to 3D print something to put there like logo or something, but I was kind of thinking about potentially doing an intake on the back right there. As you can see, a lot more room in the 900. And in terms of the footprint it takes up on the desk versus the Skunkworks build, which is an SMA8 by Case Labs, which is severely longer. It's like this much longer at least in this case. But because it's so long, I have to put it on my desk at an angle so it doesn't hang off. Even though this is a wider chassis, because it's a dual chamber versus the Skunkworks case, I'll be able to have it on my desk straight, which means I can push it over to the right more, which means this is actually gonna give me more space, even though it's a wider case because it's not as long. Now we just gotta figure out the loop and stuff. And then this guy, like I said, I'm gonna probably have to drill some holes in this and tap them to get returns to go where I want, rather than being forced to come all the way to the bottom, because EK in its infinite wisdom thought that there should only be a fill port on the top on one side and not both sides like there should be. And then the exits and returns are all the way down here at the bottom. So now I get to start playing with loop plumbing because the main components, as you can see, are in. I want to talk about drives real quick too. So there is a drive inside under here, which is I'm using 2 Crucial drives. We've used Crucial a lot around here. The Micron stuff for the storage has just been so fast and so solid. But anyways, I got 2 drives in here. I've got a Gen 4 and a Gen 5. So in the top slot for the direct to CPU lanes, I've got a Crucial Gen 5 drive. This is not like a sponsored bit, it's just a drive that we had. But it's 14,500 megabytes per second read-write, which is kind of nuts. I wish I had 2 of them. I would have considered maybe a RAID. But this is also the heatsink edition, which I don't need a heatsink because the motherboard has a bigger heatsink than this, so I took the heatsink off and put it in the Gen 5 lane to CPU. And then rather than dealing with provisioning Gen 5 and all that, I just decided to do a Gen 4 for a second drive. And I'm actually utilizing their P3. I hit myself in the face, motherfucker. But for the second drive, I'm using a 2 terabyte P310, which is actually a newer drive for them. It's one of their more budget-friendly drives, but it's a 7,100 megabytes per second, 2 terabyte Gen 4. So I got 2 terabytes for the Gen 5 drive and 2 terabytes for the Gen 4 drive. 4 terabytes total, which is plenty. I'm gonna go ahead and throw my RAM in here. That's the same RAM you guys saw that we tested, the 8,000 megahertz. 7,600 megahertz that would run on the 9800X3D. Because when you're plumbing your loop, you need to account for the height of your RAM. That way you have room to be able to switch the RAM out and not be like, have the tube so close to it that you can't get it out. Because nothing sucks more than plumbing your loop and then going to put your RAM in, realizing you got too close to the RAM and then it impacts. Now this looks like I'm seeing it come together now. I like this. I got so much more space in here. But the RAM in there, that T-Force, it looks so good. Like, it's so understated and just basic, and I love it. All right, so I started doing my loop order here. Fortunately, I have a drain right here that I can utilize. Using these torque fittings is gonna be kind of nice because I love this plunger type. So I can hook a fitting up to it, get a tube out, and then when I'm ready, pull on that and it will drain. And so out from the pump, up, over, and across into here, through the rad, out here, up to a 90 into the in, which is on the right, out of the GPU through this double 90, and then up and into the CPU. I'm probably gonna plumb inline right here, see if I can make it neat, my flow meter. So it's a coolant temperature sensor and a flow meter that will then go up into the CPU. CPU out up here into the top res, or excuse me, radiator, out of the radiator, down across, and then straight in to wherever I'm gonna have to drill the hole right there. Okay, so day 3, while also having to make content at the same time as doing this. But anyway, a bit's happened since the last bit of the vlog. I just had to kind of make some headway and I'm hoping to finish it today. So you can see I've got a drain system plumbed in down here, very similar to what I did with my friend Chris's build with the NV9, where we've got it hard plumbed right into the outside of the case. This is an inline check valve, so I can open and close it so I can get fluid out. If you look on the back side right there, you can see there's the plug for that. It was really convenient because this case has this piece that comes out right here and that's part of supporting the vertical mount, but it allowed me to be able to like use the tape method to kind of like you would do if you were cutting for a fitting in tile. And I've watched so many of those stupid home improvement videos. I'm like, oh, I know how to line that up. But anyway, so I've got that. So that came out and allowed me to be able to drill it really easily. But I also have a drain down there in the bottom of the reservoir, giving me a second point to get fluid out. It's kind of like a dry sump system in a car when it comes to oil. I know I'm gonna reference the car stuff here, but if you have a dry sump system, which means the oil is not held in a pan underneath the engine, it's held in a reservoir outside of the engine, there's all sorts of high and low points where oil gets trapped. So they end up putting drain plugs in various places of the system to make sure you can get all the oil out. Same sort of concept here. So this drain right there would allow me to easily get the stuff in the top of the loop out, but it would not have allowed me to get the stuff in the GPU or the bottom radiator out very easily because it's above all of that. Now technically this is above as well, but what this allows me to do is get as much of the fluid out as I can from the top of the loop, cap that back off, hook air up to one of my inlets up here, like where I fill the system. Then I can open this and it will force air down both sides of the system, and then we'll push the fluid out of this port right here. Well, the one that's drained in or plumbed into the system or the case. So I drain there first, cap back off, use compressed air. Obviously we're not gonna thread it in and do 130 PSI. We're just gonna hold a compressor nozzle up to it to force the fluid that's trapped in the blocks and the GPU and all that, and through the bottom rad out here. So it would give me a much better loop draining than just letting gravity do it. Now you'll notice I have a lot of fittings in here, and there's a lot of people that don't like this. They don't like this look of lots of 90s and stuff. And that's what's kind of cool about having these kinds of options, is the fact that you can do it the way you want. I personally like the very fitting, heavy plumbing look to it. I like it. It kind of fills out the loop a bit. It makes it so I only have to do 90-degree bends. So it's part liking the way it looks, part laziness, to be honest. But it's much easier to get a good, solid 90-degree bend that I only have to do in, various places, versus having to do a double bend, which getting it to line up perfectly and get perfect 90-degree angles and everything to line up without being slightly askewed and messing with my OCD is nearly impossible. Every build I've done where I've had double bends usually takes 3 or 4 attempts per bend to get it just right, and it's never perfect, which I always end up being bothered by when I look at it later on on my desk or whatever. So yeah, that's why I just made it so I have these 90-degree pieces that basically are going to go everywhere. And then it's 90-degree from CPU to rad, and then 90-degree from rad to the fitting, which you guys can see now. I drilled and tapped and put a fitting in there. So I had to completely disassemble the reservoir. I showed when I did my friend's Mega Man themed build all of the learning that I went through to make sure I did that right without cracking the acrylic. And it's funny because I used a spare piece of acrylic before I did that today, and actually chipped it because I remembered, oh yeah, lubricate the drill, the bit on my drill press, and go slow. Because as soon as I tried to go too fast and push it, it chattered and it bit, and then the acrylic just cracks when that happens. And I've said this a million times, the FLT brand of reservoirs from EK are completely ridiculous in expecting you to use the bottom as a return. There's no reason to run a tube all the way down in front of the reservoir for a return. That would look ridiculous. So that's why I always measure where I need these to be, and then drill, tap, and off we go. This is my sensor panel from Skunkworks, because I never found a place to put it in Skunkworks that made a lot of sense. This was just double-sided taped under my monitor, so it was just there in my face. But what I've decided I'm gonna do with it, because we're using clear fluid, and there's no point in looking at clear fluid in a reservoir as far as I'm concerned. If we had any of the color reactive stuff, or like the Aura fluid, or even the Mystic Fog from EK, it would look nice. It would catch all the RGB that's in this reservoir. The whole top to bottom is an RGB strip, and it looks really good. The problem is those coolants always fall out, and they always like jam up inside of your microfins. The tighter those microfins got, the harder any fluid that had a thickness to it, it just reacts poorly and then falls out and gets clogged up everywhere. So I'm gonna actually be mounting this right there. Part of it's gonna be covered by that bottom fitting, but I don't care. But that's gonna be my sensor panel right there. So it's gonna be kind of a part of the reservoir. I guess I should do some checking to make sure that my cables are not gonna impact on something. The other places I looked at considered doing it was like right here on top of the GPU, and then hide the tubing and stuff behind it, but I don't know, that to me, I just didn't like the way that looked, to be honest. So that's why I'm gonna try and get this mounted to the reservoir. It's almost like I wish this was like 1 inch shorter. All right, gonna move forward, and hopefully we'll get this done today and you guys will get some final B-roll stuff. All right, here's the loop. It's together, it's holding air, mostly. I say mostly because it has like the ever so slight leak. What I mean by leak is like, it would take quite a while for the needle to move, but it is moving, and I don't know where it could possibly be potentially like losing air from. See, the one thing you can do to try and figure out where it is go around, start wiggling tubes and stuff. If you wiggle anything and then you start to get that leak to increase, like it goes down faster, then you know where it's at. But I honestly think it's gonna be right here. which is, so I can test this in a different spot and check it, but this bulkhead fitting can only get so tight with the male fitting that it has here. I don't know if the O-ring right there is fully seated. I can only get it so tight. But again, when I close this off, boom, like that, this junction is no longer in the loop, except for when I'm like dropping the air out. Also too, like I actually wouldn't be that concerned with the rate at which it's going down, because this is way more pressure than the loop would ever experience. And it's also, air is way thinner than any of the coolant's gonna be. So where it could potentially have this teeny tiny leak from, I have no idea. But the rate at which it's going, like I'm sure you probably can't even see it moving on the camera. But I've touched and wiggled everything, like, except, shut up. I just don't know where it could potentially be. This is the downside when you go as many fittings as I have done though, is that creates more junction points, and they've all been used, so there could be a small, teeny tiny slice in an O-ring or something I didn't notice. But again, I'm okay with this. If it comes back to bite me, then it does. But the loop went exactly as I said. Comes out of the reservoir, through here, into the rad, out of the rad, into the GPU, out of the GPU, through my flow meter / temperature sensor for the coolant, into the CPU, out of the CPU through the rad, and then out of the rad back here into the reservoir. I know a lot of people too have commented in previous builds they don't like this long run. I like the long run. I do. I feel like it just fills things out. I love all the horizontal lines that we have going in here. And the cool thing about the way I did this is I can actually just run this along behind my 12-volt high power cable, and then you won't even see the cable except for right there. It'd be better than running it along the back of the GPU and then through the grommet, because this is less visible than a cable draped all the way across it. What I need to do now is get the last of the wiring in. Here's everything in the back so far. The only thing not in there is the main harnesses, because these are the extensions, like I said. So I gotta plug in, obviously, my Corsair link cable. I've gotta plug in the 24 high pin, or 24 power, wow. 24 pin. And my 2 EPS, obviously my pump and all the accessories and stuff. Then we can do a fill. Not to be confused with that fill. All right, so it's done, it's wired up, everything's in. What I'm gonna do real quick before I put fluid in there is I'm gonna set it over there in our test area, just see if it'll give me a splash screen. If it will, I'll shut it off real quick. The GPU is fine with the passive load of the block, not the CPU. So, fingers crossed, oh God. We were joking that every computer I build has to be the way to Skunkworks, whether it's Skunkworks or not. So, okay. Yeah. Okay. Whew. We were joking that if I built an ITX build, it would be the same weight. Like, I made the joke that it's like a neutron star level of density. A teaspoon of neutron star is billions of tons, right? At least, that's what they say. How do they measure something that's flat?
What does it taste like?
They taste like neutron. So what I'm looking for right now when I hit power, is the fans are gonna turn. It boots. Okay, that's cool.
I love that boot up animation it does.
Wait, why isn't that one on though? Okay, the pump is on, that's for sure. I forgot about the pump. Okay, I'm really confused though as to why these are getting power but not light. Because they're the same cable. Whatever, the fans are turning, so it should be getting some sort of signal. Okay, let me unplug the pump, because that's not good.
So it doesn't just burn the bearing out.
Yeah. Yeah, see the fans are turning. Those light up, those don't. Whatever, that's minor, I can fix that. It's looping, that's the thing I don't like. Oh, there we go. Yes, okay, we good. It did the initial AMD thing where it has to do 14 test boots first, and then every boot after that is fine. Now we gotta put coolant in it and hope it all stays inside. Okay, well, Windows is installed. The CPU is CPUing. 8,000 megahertz does run. It XMP or Expo profile enabled and booted, just like we expected based on our previous QVL discussion. Now it doesn't guarantee it's gonna boot, but whatever. So I just did a quick IQ setting after getting the firmware to update, and this sucks because I have to use like OpenRGB to control the motherboard and RAM the way I want, and then IQ for that. And then the case has its own lighting, which technically passes through to the motherboard, but it's kind of like RGB hell in terms of the software, because again, no unified experience. I am still happy with the, I'm so far happy with the IQ. Everything's working right here. I got the pump running at 2.9 liters per minute, so that times 60 or 60 times 3, 180 liters an hour worth of coolant flow. That's a lot of flow. And then you can see my coolant temp right now is at 27.2. So it's actually running pretty nicely. But I want to test my airflow because I almost considered putting all intakes, kind of like the Alienware rig that we did a video about, which they actually said they did a lot of testing and found that having intake on the top, intake on the bottom, no fan there. They also had front fans, I believe, though, that were also pushing air. This is an intake fan blowing across the RAM. The RAM at 8,000 megahertz is surprisingly warm, even though it's not doing any RAM tasks right now. So having that like air blowing directly at it has got to be a good thing. Because like I said, it is running 8,000 right now. But I want to use this now to kind of see how the airflow in this chassis is working right now. It's set to a static 65% fan speed right now. I don't have any logic going because I have to program all of that. But let's see now. See how it comes in from the bottom. Oh yeah, look at that. It's definitely updrafting as I expected. Let's see here. Pull in from the front. Oh yeah, pull in from the front too, look at that. Obviously the back fan's gonna pull it in. But see, that back fan is feeding a lot of cold, like fresh air directly to the top rad, which is what I was hoping for. Because as you can see, I want to make, one, the bottom air is kind of getting blocked by the GPU a little bit. Two, that is getting warmed up by the whole loop as well. So if this was the only intake down here on the bottom, we'd be circulating fairly warm air inside with the 5090 and a 9950 X3D. If it was like a lower end GPU or something with a lot less wattage than say 600 watts under load, I wouldn't be concerned about it. So this is feeding quite a bit of fresh air, as you can see, directly to the top rad. So I love this. I love that I can use this now to see, like, let me put smoke over here and see how much of it actually pulls in. It's kind of a mix of the back and the bottom right here. Now the back, if you don't recall, is a full mesh back panel on this chassis. Ugh. So I want to see what's happening back here. So it should be positive pressure. Except for the GPU, or the power supply. See? Power supply's right there. It's pulling a little bit of it in. Jeez. That is violent. Oh, I forgot to mention, I didn't install the screen, as you guys have probably noticed, because in my infinite terrible measuring, I had to use an angled fitting, one of the rotary angled fittings, to go into the reservoir because I had the height off slightly, so of course the tube was at an angle. And I'm like, that's okay, but that means the amount of space that took up now, this won't fit in there without impacting that fitting. And then because of the GPU bracket, I can't move it to the left and off center it without it going crooked, and I can't, these cables right here will hit the bottom and I can't flip it over because then they're in the way of my fill port. So this is an 8.8 inch screen. I ordered a 7.8 inch screen. I'm hoping the 1 inch diagonal difference is enough to give me the slight clearance I need. When I say slight, I mean I needed just a slight amount of clearance. But I can install the screen later at any time. I just have to run the cables, shorter cables than this, out of the back, into the USB and into the HDMI port, and then I'll have my sensor panel. We've done videos on how to set those up. So that's why that's missing. Anyway, time to get out of here. You know how we do around here. We can't have a build without an epic fill montage. So that's what I'm gonna leave you guys with.